All right, welcome everyone to the next installment of our virtual training series for the Illinois Democratic County Chairs Association. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dan Kovatz. I'm the Executive Director of the County Chairs Association. Tonight we have a very important topic, but before we get to our presenters, just a couple of ground rules I want to go over for the evening. One, make sure you're being respectful. Everybody is going to be muted throughout the session. So if you have any questions as we're going along, please put them in the chat and we will ask them as we're going. Please be present while you're here. We've got about an hour, depending on if we've got a good conversation going. So put your phone on mute. The email can wait until later. While we're here, let's pay attention to what we're going over so we know how to talk about this issue in the fall when we're talking with voters. And third, my mom always joked around that the only way we learn is by asking questions. So please ask away. The only way we're going to get smarter is if we ask these questions now. And we've got a lot of different experience on the call tonight. I know just looking at some of the participants, we've got some county chairs, some candidates, and some of our super volunteers. So we've got a lot of different experience on the call tonight. Why don't we go ahead and before I introduce our introduction, go ahead and drop into the chat where you're from, if you're a precinct committee person or if you're a candidate, what you're running for. So we've got an idea who's with us this evening. So while everybody is doing that, I'm going to introduce our person that's going to kind of kick us off for the evening. Lucy Moog is the 43rd Ward committee person. She's also a member of the IDCCA Leadership Circle and is very active with women's reproductive rights and fighting for those issues. So introduce Lucy to kind of get us started.
Thanks, Dan. I'm so excited to be here. I'm really proud of everybody for showing up. This is such an important issue. And I think it's one that's really going to help a lot of our candidates in November. I feel like when I talk to people and they're saying, well, we don't really need to worry about this because we're in Illinois and Illinois is safe. I want to remind them that we have two really important races for the Illinois State Supreme Court that are coming up in November. And I would show them a map of sort of the Midwest and show them how, yes, we are super lucky to be in Illinois, but we also have a really big responsibility in Illinois. And that is to help take care of women's reproductive rights, their needs for the whole Midwest and maybe Texas and all sorts of other places. So I am so proud of our governor and of our state legislature for all the work that they did. And I'm so proud of Planned Parenthood because they have been planning for this for probably 5 years. And we'll probably hear more about this from Rianne, but they have a plan in place to be able to absorb and help women from Wisconsin and Missouri and Indiana and Kentucky and wherever else they're coming from. So hopefully she's going to give us a little bit of a flavor on that. So I'm going to introduce you to Rianne Hawkins, who we are so lucky to have here today to talk about this issue. Rianne is the Director of Advocacy and Campaigns for Planned Parenthood of Illinois. In her time at Planned Parenthood since 2016, she has been very busy ensuring that reproductive rights will be there for all Illinois women. She helped pass the very important RHA, the Reproductive Health Act, and the ERA, which, thank you, that only took decades. And she has also helped to elect many pro-choice legislators around the state. So she lives in Springfield with her husband and her 2 kids. And I'm so happy that you could join us today. And thank you for sharing your expertise and your time with us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lucy. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I see so many friends on the call. This is so great. Hey, Rachel. Hey, Jay. And so I'm going to share my screen. Thank you so much for that introduction, Lucy. I am going to share my screen here because I've got a little PowerPoint slideshow here. And that's, we're here all tonight to talk about the state of reproductive rights in the state of Illinois. And Lucy gave us a good flavor of kind of the beginning of it. And I would love to get into it a little bit deeper with you all. So Dan mentioned, here's our agenda for this evening. I'm going to add some community agreements to what Dan just mentioned, give you a little bit of background on Planned Parenthood Illinois Action if you're not familiar with us and what we do. Then we'll talk about the current status of abortion access nationwide, and then we'll zoom into Illinois and what that means for Illinois. And then I just want to emphasize the fact that this fight goes beyond the fight for reproductive rights. And then we'll talk a little bit about what you can do specifically and especially in the upcoming election to make sure that Illinois remains a pro-choice haven. So just to add to our community care agreement list here, the first one here is that no one knows everything, but together we know a lot. I think Dan mentioned that earlier, but I'm going to reinforce that now. The second one here is to respect all identities and to use gender inclusive language. This is especially important when it comes to abortion access because not all women can get pregnant and not all pregnant people are women. And so it's important to use gender inclusive language as much as possible. We want to meet people where they are. And I want to emphasize that lived experience is expertise. We all are experts in our own lived experience. I also want to encourage everyone that anti-racism is a practice that we should all be practicing whenever we have a chance to, and to move up and to move back. This is an important topic. I know that we'll field some questions in the chat, but make sure you leave time for everyone else to chime in as well. If you agree, just drop a little plus sign in the chat box, and hopefully I'm going to see a lot of plus signs here. Yay, hooray. I see a lot of plus signs. Perfect. All right. So if you are not familiar with Planned Parenthood Illinois Action, that is the entity that I work for. We are an independent, nonpartisan 501c4 that does advocacy and political work to help support Planned Parenthood health centers throughout the state of Illinois. We engage in lobbying. We lobby at the State House and do advocacy campaigns to support that lobbying work. And then we also do electoral work to help elect pro-choice legislators, not only at the State House level, but at the local level and at the national level as well. All of this is to provide that foundation so that Illinois can remain a pro-choice haven and that our health centers can continue to operate within the state of Illinois. We also work very tirelessly in a ton of coalitions to make sure that all of our patients are taken care of, not only with their medical needs, but every aspect of their lives as well. That's why we advocate for things like a raise in the minimum wage and fair work week. We also work on things like Black maternal health to make sure that we improve outcomes when it comes to people of color that are giving birth here in the state of Illinois. So it's a big job, but we are very happy to do it. So headline, in case you hadn't heard, Roe was overturned. Back on May 3rd, we got a leaked opinion from the U.S. Supreme Court that showed that the U.S. Supreme Court was planning to overturn the Roe versus Wade decision. That initial burst set off rallies throughout the state of Illinois, including the one that you see our lieutenant governor at the picture on the far left-hand side. That was back in, gosh, I think September, when the court upheld the Texas abortion ban. And then when on June 24th, when they actually did hand down their decision in the Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Care case, we saw an outcry throughout the state of Illinois and honestly throughout the country, but especially in the state of Illinois, all across the state. And you see State Representative Mara Hirschhauer, State Representative Barbara Hernandez, and State Senator Karina Villa. They came to a rally that we had in Aurora. And then the picture on the bottom is actually here in Springfield. We had about 400 people that showed up on a moment's notice outside the federal courthouse in the city of Springfield. So that was fun to organize and to see so much of the community to come out. But since then, we've seen rallies popping up all over the place. I know I personally attended a rally in Lincoln, Illinois. I've gotten outreach from people planning rallies in Greenville and in Edwardsville and all across the state of Illinois. So this really has galvanized a lot of people together to show outrage for what has happened at the Supreme Court level, the US Supreme Court level, I should say. The good and bad news is that we've been planning for this because we saw that this was going to be a possibility way back in 2017. We began the work to lay the foundation for Illinois to become a pro-choice haven. And that started with making sure that we had the right laws in place. So in 2017, we worked to pass what is known as HB 40. Part of that legislation include the repeal of a trigger provision that we had in Illinois state law. So up until 2017, Illinois had a trigger in our state law that would have turned us directly into an anti-choice state should Roe be overturned. That existed until 2017. In 2017, we saw that the court was making moves to start to overturn the Roe versus Wade decision. I'm not ashamed to tell you, we got a lot of funny looks from people saying that we were crazy, that we wanted to repeal the trigger provision in Illinois state law, because of course, Roe is settled precedent. There's no way that the Supreme Court would overturn it. They did. And so we look pretty smart now, having thought of it all the way back in 2017. That continued in 2019 with the passage of the Reproductive Health Act. And then we continued our work back this last fall with the repeal of the last major restriction that we had here in the state of Illinois, and that was forced parental notification. But we did that because we knew that every state around Illinois would either had a trigger provision in the law or would soon go into session in order to restrict abortion care in their states. So on the day that the Dobbs decision was handed down, Missouri and Kentucky enacted their trigger provision and they automatically became anti-choice states. In Wisconsin and Michigan, they are currently in legal limbo because while they have a Republican legislature, they both have Democratic governors. And so that is being fought out at their state Supreme Court level. And then just today, Indiana gavelled into special session to enact abortion restrictions. And we're also seeing in Kansas, there's a ballot measure that's going to be voted on August 2nd that would decide the fate of abortion access in the state of Kansas. All this means is that Planned Parenthood health centers throughout the state of Illinois are seeing a steady increase of patients coming to our health centers from out of state. I personally work in the Springfield Health Center, which is an honor and a privilege to do so. But a couple weeks ago, we saw a patient come in from Idaho. It is not uncommon in Springfield, Illinois, to see patients coming from Texas or Ohio or Tennessee, to see those license plates in our parking lot. Those patients have traveled that far away to seek care. Just last week, we saw a mother travel from Iowa all the way over to Flossmoor. So Iowa drove across the state of Illinois to our Flossmoor Health Center, which is on the Indiana border, with 4 young children under the age of 6 to seek abortion care. And she brought the kids with her because she had no one else to turn to watch the children, and she needed to seek healthcare. This is happening more and more. We have made a plan at Planned Parenthood of Illinois to absorb that extra patient load. But I will tell you that as more and more states enact more and more strict provisions on abortion care, that patient load is going to increase. We are already seeing in our sister affiliate in the Fairview Heights area, the majority of their patients are coming in from out of state to seek abortion care. So this is already happening. And this is the map, hopefully, that Lucy was referring to earlier. This is a map of what abortion access looks like throughout the country. In this case, pink means bad, not good. Blue means good. As you can see, Illinois is the blue dot in the sea of pink. And, you'll see Wisconsin and Michigan are kind of in limbo. They're marked as anti-choice, but they're kind of in limbo, which, is not great for care for the residents living in those states. And then on the other side of Missouri is the state of Kansas, which will decide the fate of abortion access in the state of Kansas. just here on August 2nd. It's the first major test that we will see post-Roe. So as you can see, Illinois plays a very important role when it comes to providing abortion care, not only for the Midwest, but the entire country. Here's a little bit of a zoom in closer to what Illinois sees in our particular region. So you see states like Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, all of those places have nowhere to go to. Illinois is the closest place where they can go to seek abortion care. And as more and more states fall, I think in Virginia, the governor in Virginia announced, gosh, maybe about 2 weeks ago, that he was going to seek an abortion ban in the state of Virginia as well. And so as these extreme politicians take more and more steps to restrict abortion access, Illinois becomes more and more important for care throughout the country. And I want to point out that this goes beyond abortion. So this activist U.S. Supreme Court has indicated now, when they're willing to overturn 50 years of precedents, that they're willing to revisit any precedent that has come before them. We saw in Justice Thomas's majority opinion that he is willing to relook at marriage equality. And so all of these rights are at stake: the rights for voting, immigrant rights, healthcare with the Affordable Care Act being challenged, religious liberty. All of this could be at stake when it comes to an activist U.S. Supreme Court. And what that means is all of these issues could be handled then at the state level, which is why the 2022 election is so important, because if the U.S. Supreme Court pushes more and more of these decisions onto the states, we have a right and we have a duty to make sure that we are maintaining progressive values here in the state of Illinois. And that means electing pro-choice champions at every level of government, including at the Illinois State Supreme Court level. Now, I want to just express my thanks because I know that I have a lot of friends on this call, and we all worked very, very hard in the last 6 years to make sure that abortion remains legal in the state of Illinois. And I just want to give props to everybody who worked on House Bill 40, everybody who worked on the Reproductive Health Act, everybody who helped pass things like the ERA. All of that got us to where we are right now. So that hard work is not unnoticed. It's very important. And I hope you know that I am thankful to be in partnership with you all to get that work completed. But I will say we're on the 5-yard line. We gotta push it across the goal line and to make sure that we get the work done. And that means electing these pro-choice champions. For the first time in 70 years, the Illinois State Supreme Court has redistricted their districts. And there are 2 districts that are up for election this time around, where it is a brand new open seat in a brand new district. And we have a good shot at winning at least one, if not both of them. And if we do that, we will cement a pro-choice majority on that Supreme Court. And then any challenges to legislation that we've passed at the state level, like the Reproductive Health Act, hopefully will uphold any challenges in the state Supreme Court. So I will say we've done a lot. I want to acknowledge that we've done a lot. This has been some of the most proudest moments of my career, is working with you all to make sure that we set Illinois up to be a pro-choice haven, and that we keep that level of access in the state of Illinois. But we've got to get it across the finish line, and we've got to cement the level of abortion care and abortion access in the state of Illinois. And I'm hoping I can count on you all to help me do that. So I am going to ask you all to join our Summer of Dissent. We have a number of different ways to get engaged with the pro-choice community here in Illinois this summer. Everything from hosting a house party to talking to your local business owners, to volunteering with us, to doing postcards. There's a lot of work to be done. And I'm hoping that I can count on all of you to help us get the work done. And then hopefully to vote for pro-choice candidates this fall so that we can make sure to cement Illinois as a pro-choice haven throughout the country. Because not only do we need it for Illinois residents, but as you saw by these maps, and I'll just go back over here, it's not just Illinois that counts on us to remain a pro-choice haven. It's the entire country that counts on us. And so we've got work to do. The whole country is counting on us, and I hope that I can count on you too. And I am gonna stop sharing my screen right there, and I would be happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Thank you, Rianne. Let's remember, if you have any questions, and go ahead and put them in the chat. I know, at least with the County Chairs Association, the feedback that we've gotten from our members is really, how do we talk about, now that, you know, we know that Roe has been overturned, but how do we talk about what is tangible on the ground of not just the abortion issue, but privacy just in general. And you kind of touched on it, where we've kind of have that lull of, well, it's Illinois, so do we really have to worry about it? So how do we, if we're talking to a voter, kind of stress that importance of, this, even in a county like Johnson County, which is a Republican county, or a county like, Will County, which is a good Democratic county. How do we talk about that?
Yeah, so I think it's important that we, advocate for pro-choice elected officials whenever we can. So, for example, here in Springfield, we have a health center in the city of Springfield, and we have protesters every single day outside of our health center in Springfield. It's local ordinances by the city of Springfield that would allow a bubble zone to allow our patients to come and go without being harassed. So city of Springfield officials have a say in what abortion access looks like in the city of Springfield. Same for your county governments. Do they allow coverage for a full range of reproductive health care for their county employees? Most counties don't. And that's important to make sure that there's access to not only contraceptives, but abortion care as well as the full range. So there are ways everywhere where you can advocate for more and more abortion access, even if you live in a red county.
Okay. We had a question come in about how do you talk with a voter who feels that abortion care is birth control?
So I think that, the foundation of the Roe versus Wade decision is the right to privacy, and it's no one's business why someone would seek an abortion. Everyone has their own lived experience and their own reason to seek that particular care. And the goal here is that the government doesn't have any say in telling you what type of healthcare it is that you choose for yourself, that you work with your doctor to choose for yourself. So it's really a privacy issue because it's no one's business.
Okay. I know we had a good conversation going earlier in a meeting earlier today. We were talking about different regionalized messaging within the state of Illinois, within the Democratic Party. So is this something that you've seen, just your polling, that is kind of an issue that is galvanizing voters, that we should be able to kind of get behind? Or is it something where we've got to kind of pick and choose where we're talking about this?
Well, I think, in our polling, we've seen that the support for Roe versus Wade, the ruling that allowed for access to safe and legal abortion, is supported by over 70% of people nationwide. That includes people that live in red states. That includes the majority of people that live in red areas. This is healthcare And to be able to have access to that healthcare is important. It's important that politicians not have a say in what healthcare is decided. That's between a pregnant person and their physician and any other person that they choose to involve in that decision-making process. It's not a place for the government. It's not a place for politicians. It's not a place for people to restrict the type of healthcare that you have a right to and that your doctor and you feel that you need.
Okay. We had a good one come in on at least next steps. So we know that Illinois has been very progressive on this issue and gotten out in front of these issues. And we're thankful for Planned Parenthood for your leadership on this and for, frankly, the General Assembly and Governor Pritzker's leadership to be able to get this through. But what about next steps? What do we need to do other than, yes, we have our 2 Supreme Court races and the County Chairs Association will be very active in supporting our candidates there. But what are our next steps then that we can take, either statewide, for the General Assembly or even local?
Yeah, so I think it's important to always make sure that we are maintaining access. So not only at the state legislative level and electing pro-choice champions, but then also making sure that local governments are offering that care, and that when threats to privacy, whether it's marriage equality or to reproductive rights, come up, things like restriction to at the local level. I think it's important to stand up and speak out. I also think it's important to talk to your friends and neighbors about this and why it is an issue that you're so passionate about. Think about what brought you here tonight. I mean, it's Monday night. It's 6:30. You could be doing anything else in the world, and you decided to come and hear me yammer. Why is that? Clearly, you care about this issue, and I hope that you take this passion and feel free to talk with your friends, talk with your neighbors about why this issue is so important to you. Maybe you have your own personal story around abortion access. Many people do. 3 in 4 women will seek an abortion, or I'm sorry, 1 in 4 women, will seek an abortion in their lifetime. So statistically, someone has. And talk to them about why this is so important to you, why you think access to abortion needs to be maintained, and why it is so important to elect people that will safeguard that right here in the state of Illinois and nationally.
I think you touched on something too that I think is important that we don't really talk about all that much. But as a guy, why is it important for me to also engage in this? Yes, I have many friends who are involved in this movement, and I've got friends who have daughters and my own daughter, so it's important to me. But say that wasn't the case with me, why should I be interested and be passionate about this?
Yeah, so abortion affects everyone, obviously. The decision to when and how to start a family is something that affects us all. And making sure that people that are pregnant have that ability and have all options on the table is important. And then the other part of the coin is that if this fundamental right to privacy is eroded and is meant to go away, there's no telling where it could go next. Any number of rights could be at risk. We've already touched on marriage equality and the right to marry who you love. This activist Supreme Court has shown that they're willing to revisit any number of settled precedents. And I think that we should all be working together to make sure that we all maintain the rights that we currently have, because we don't know where it's going to go next. And I think it's important to stop any erosion before it gets to something that is personally held by you. Yeah.
So we had another question come in, and I'm going to tweak it just a little bit. If you were a candidate running for office, whether it's a nonpartisan office or if it's an office that is not in a legislative, role like an alderman, county board, or general assembly, how, and you get that question of where do you stand on this? How do you kind of talk to a voter where you know the office you're running for doesn't really have an impact on this, but then also wanting to be supportive of the issue? Or do you just say, hey, it's just not something that the office I'm running for is going to deal with, and you move on?
Yeah. So I dealt with this myself when I ran for office. And I have found that people don't like it when people are cagey. So I would just state your views. Not everyone agrees with everyone else on every single issue, and you can acknowledge that. But as long as you're true to your own self and your own beliefs, I think people respect it when you're honest with them and tell them how you believe, as opposed to trying to dodge the question. I think voters can sniff that out a mile away, and they are not happy about it.
Okay, let's make sure we're putting any questions we have in the chat, and let's start to wrap up a little bit here. So as we kind of get into the fall campaign season, is this something, are we seeing more of an influx of volunteers coming out? And for candidates or county parties, since I know we've got some chairs on the call, how should we at least be reaching out to the voters who are engaged on this issue to get them more involved locally?
Yeah, I think the pitch to local volunteers is, this is something that has clearly struck a chord with a lot of people, and a lot of people on both sides, but especially the pro-choice side, have really kind of taken this as a rallying cry. And the pitch to them is exactly what I just said earlier, is that there's a lot at stake in this election. We live in Illinois, where there is Chicago, yes, but all of this can be taken away in one bad election. And we need people like them to help knock on doors, make phone calls, make sure that we're electing pro-choice champions at every level of government, to ensure that Illinois remains a pro-choice haven. And then, start working on those local issues, making sure that there's access to reproductive health care at the local level. If you have a health center in your area, making sure that it is a safe place for people to go and to achieve care, especially since now you all know that people are traveling long distances to come and seek abortion care in the state of Illinois. But I think the pitch needs to be that we have to work diligently in every election to make sure that we're electing pro-choice champions, because it only takes one bad election for all of this to go away.
So we can go ahead and wrap up on this question here, and I think it's an important one as we think about businesses engaging in the community. Of how would you recommend for different ways for businesses to get involved and to share a voice on this?
Yeah, so there's actually a toolkit I think Jillian put in the chat a little bit further up, bandsoffourbody.org. There is a business toolkit. And Dan, if you'll let me pull together some links for you for tomorrow, I can have Dan send it out afterwards as well. There are definitely ways that businesses can engage on this issue, everything from displaying a sign to raising money for an abortion fund or Planned Parenthood, for that matter, or any of the other nonprofit providers here in the state of Illinois. I will tell you that abortion funds are in dire need of your assistance, because they are just seeing an increase of clients and patients that need their help in order to obtain abortions, because they're traveling from further and further away. And then look at their own healthcare plans and what they offer within their own healthcare plans to their employees. If they do have that, does it include a full range of reproductive health care? Do you offer benefits to employees that might seek time off to seek abortion care? Do you offer free contraceptives? Is there a way to advocate within the Chamber of Commerce and network with other business leaders throughout the community to make sure that the business community in your particular area is welcoming and friendly to reproductive health care for all of the employees in the area? So I'd be more than happy to send out that toolkit. That'll give you some ideas and some talking points about how to approach some business owners about showing their support. Not everybody can be a Google or an Apple and offer to have people pay pay or offer to have their employees pay for their travel costs if they have to travel out of state. But there are things that businesses can do to show their support in this case around this issue.
And that's something, happy to send out all the information afterwards. We are recording tonight's session, so if you had any questions, I did see a couple comments on, about the training deck. We will be able to share that out. So once we get everything finalized and we get the links, we'll make sure that we kind of get that put together and sent out to everyone who attended tonight. So Rhiannon, thank you for joining us. A lot of good information, a lot of sobering comments that we had tonight, but we know the fight that we're in. And I know we say this every cycle, but this is genuinely the most important election of our lifetime. And not just for what we're facing now, but for 10, 20, plus years from now, what our future is going to hold. So thank you everyone for attending and have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.